This week, Special Prosecutor Jack Smith proved that he is not playing around with Donald Trump, with two major things happening in Donald Trump's world of legal hell. The first, of course, was when Jack Smith formally filed the appeal of Judge Eileen Cannon's recent decision to completely toss out the documents case. That appeal is now formal. It is with the courts. We will wait and see what the appellate court has to say about it. But he does make a very compelling argument within it. So that one could be brought back very easily, hopefully very soon. But the bigger news, of course, that captured this week was the superseding indictment that Jack Smith acquired from a grand jury, which is almost identical to the original indictments. There are no new charges, and the charges that Donald Trump faces in the election subversion case, the one in front of Judge Tanya Chutkan, all the charges are the same, and there's nothing new. In fact, these new indictments actually remove things that the other indictments had previously alleged. So a lot of people were kind of wondering, like, well, why is this a good thing? It's a good thing because Jack Smith went back through, based on the Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity, and said, all right, I'm going to make sure that I don't put anything in here that could be considered an official role of the President of the United States, which includes the part where, in the previous indictment, Smith had talked about Donald Trump trying to use the Department of Justice to go out and do these investigations. That was part of the election subversion, but based on the Supreme Court's immunity ruling, that actually is something the president does have the authority to do. So let's not even get into those muddy waters. Let's just take it out. And he did. Legal experts across the board agree that this was a very smart decision by Smith, almost, but not completely, of course, just because of the way the courts are, making this case kind of Supreme Court proof. But there is one person, and I'm sure you know who that person is, that is not happy about it. And that individual, Donald J. Trump, got on Truth Social, fired off paragraph after paragraph after paragraph attacking Jack Smith, attacking the DOJ, attacking the Democrat, attacking everything, because Donald Trump suddenly realizes, oh yeah, I still have a lot of legal problems, and they're clearly not all going to go away because I don't have enough Judge Cannons out there. But I'm going to read you this insane posting from Donald Trump, because I think this superseding indictment may have broken what was left of Donald Trump's brain. Here's what he said on Truth Social. No presidential candidate or candidate for any office has ever had to put up with all of this lawfare and weaponization directly out of the office of a political opponent. They've weaponized local DAs and attorney generals and anybody else that will listen to interfere with the upcoming 2024 presidential election. Never been done before. This is now Kamala's weaponized system against her political opponent. All of these scams will fail, just as deranged Jack's hoax in Florida has been fully dismissed, and we will win the most important election in the history of our country on November 5th. Make America great again. But that's not the end of it, right? If he had just said that, like, hey, look, we're going to win, okay? Make America great again. We're done. But no, he was still seething. So he got on there and he put another post and he said, this travesty is now on Comrade Kamala Harris, who is actively pushing it, which there is no evidence of that at all, rather than immediately calling for its dismissal, as should be done. This is for third world countries and banana republics, not for the USA. As Jack Smith knows, the whole case should be thrown out and dismissed on presidential immunity grounds, as already ruled unequivocally by the U.S. Supreme Court. Smith rewrote the exact same case in an effort to circumvent the Supreme Court decision. The people of our country will see what is happening with all these corrupt lawsuits against me and will reject them by giving me an overwhelming victory on November 5th for President of the United States. But that's also not the end of it. He was still mad. He still couldn't let it go, right? You made your point. You lied to everybody about what was actually happening. And then he continued. For them to do this immediately after our Supreme Court victory on immunity and more is shocking. I've also been informed by my attorneys that you're not even allowed to bring cases literally right before an election, a direct assault on democracy. This is an unprecedented abuse of the criminal justice system. The case has to do with conspiracy to obstruct the 2020 presidential election, when they are the ones who did the obstructing of the election, not me. They cheated on the election, and they go after me for cheating on the election. Interestingly, this comes out the exact same time as Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook has admitted to concealing massive amounts of information, such as Hunter Biden's laptop from hell, which is a direct acknowledgement that the 2020 presidential election was manipulated and rigged by the DOJ. What they are doing now is the single greatest sabotage of our democracy in history. Now, I do definitely question the timing of Mark Zuckerberg's letter to Congress this week. Like, hey, actually, we did downplay the Hunter Biden story, but they made the decision to do that. You know, the DOJ did not order them to do it. They did it on their own. And he said, and they wanted us to delete some misinformation about COVID. And sometimes we did and sometimes we didn't. Again, the DOJ did not order them to do that. They just said, hey, this is medical misinformation during a time of a deadly pandemic where thousands of people in this country alone are dying every day. Maybe consider removing it. I actually don't have a problem with that. Given the circumstances of the pandemic, the federal government, a government officer does have what's called police powers that are related to the health, safety, and welfare of the American public. They're allowed to actually do those things. And contrary to what Donald Trump says, there is no actual law saying you cannot bring charges this close to a presidential election. It's just kind of a guideline that the DOJ likes to go by. And by the way, we're not even within the time frame of their little guidelines. So it's not illegal. He's lying about that. So is that the end of it? Oh, God, no, folks. He continued. In an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt in Washington, D.C., in an act of desperation and in order to save face, the illegally appointed special counsel, deranged Jack Smith, has brought a ridiculous new indictment against me, which has all the problems of the old indictment and should be dismissed immediately. His Florida document hoax has been completely dismissed. This is merely an attempt to interfere with the election and distract the American people from the catastrophes Kamala Harris has inflicted on our nation, like the border invasion, migrant crime, rampant inflation, the threat of World War III, and more. Okay, now that is the end of it. No more from Trump at this point. But he's freaked out. He is panicking, and he knows, and I'm sure his lawyers have probably kind of had to give him a reality check here. What Jack Smith did was the smartest possible thing that Jack Smith could have done. In fact, that's pretty much what legal experts are saying. Let me read you just a few of these real quick. On a quick read, I believe this is aimed at bringing the indictment into more conformity with the Supreme Court's decision in Trump versus U.S., essentially by removing the bits in the previous indictment about corrupting the DOJ, which SCOTUS said were absolutely immune. That's from Lupe B. Lupin, who's NYC Southpaw. Smart, wrote national security lawyer Bradley Moss. All of this would arguably be inadmissible now under the SCOTUS ruling. No reason to bother keeping it in. Former federal prosecutor Barbara McQuaid said, quote, Jack Smith is not going anywhere. Here is his just filed superseding indictment against Trump in election interference case, conforming the allegations to SCOTUS's immunity decision. And the list, by the way, goes on and on. I don't want to sit here and read what every legal expert said, but they're in agreement. He did the right thing. Jack Smith did. Changing up the indictment, getting rid of the things that would be covered under immunity, leaving in the things that obviously would not be, and forcing Donald Trump to get on Truth Social and have yet another very public nervous breakdown. Hi, everyone. This here is little Athena. And Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet. So please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.